Good morning and welcome to Veterans Heartbeat on the Pulse of the Veteran, where we discuss issues of health, happiness, opportunity, and well-being of interest to the veteran community, their families, and the community who honors them.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Veterans Heartbeat, brought to you by River, the Rural Institute for Veterans Education and Research. My name is Jason Zentgraf. My co-host is Ed Lazowski here with me, and he's the Executive Director of River. We welcome you to a weekly wide-ranging discussion of issues, events, opportunities, and needs in our veteran community. Morning, Ed. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Jason?
Not too shabby, thanks. We also like to thank our sponsor, The Man Shop. It's a great place for a guy to get a haircut. If you need a haircut, swing on by and check them out. The gals there do a great job. We are also sponsored by River, the Rural Institute for Veterans Education and Research. They offer many services to veterans, such as weekly free TBI and vestibular disorder testing and educational programs that focus on veterans helping veterans. So today we're going to focus on veterans' educational benefits. We have Ken Gemlich here, the Director of Veterans Education at the Montana Office of Public Instruction. How you doing, Ken?
Doing okay.
Good. All right. So we'll kind of give the reins to you. What are some things that veterans should know about educational benefits?
Really the biggest thing is, I've been hearing from other veterans and people that have been talking to, around the state is that they think only the GI Bill is for college. And really the GI Bill is just not for college anymore. There's a lot of other programs and opportunities available to veterans that they're not aware of. And one of the biggest things they're not aware of is that they can use their GI Bill through an apprenticeship or OJT training program. Because a lot of the senior, veterans and a lot of the senior people coming out of the military really don't want to jump into school or may already have school, want to pick up a different career. And they can use their GI Bill benefit going through an OJT or an apprenticeship program.
Great. So if somebody wants to use their GI Bill, how do they go about requesting it?
First thing they need to do is go to the new website, www.vets.gov, and apply for their benefit. And they could take it upwards up to 30 days to get their certificate of eligibility back from the VA, giving them essentially permission to use their GI Bill or eligibility. Because the GI Bill is not automatic. Once you leave the military, you can't automatically use it. You actually still have to apply to use your benefit at a school, business, wherever. So the first thing you have to do, you can even do it before you leave the military, is go out and apply for your benefit.
Ken, this is Ed. You do not have to have a school in mind when you apply for the benefit.
No, you don't. So that's, I tell a lot of veterans that if you're planning to use the GI Bill at any time for anything, go and get your eligibility. Yeah, you're right. You don't have to have a specific school in mind or even a business or OJT apprenticeship, but you should have that approval already granted to you from the Veterans Administration to use it. Don't wait to the last minute or go to a school, and I've seen this done a lot of times, that they'll go to school, and the school will ask them that for that certificate of eligibility, and they'll say, well, what are you talking about? Well, you need to go out and apply for your benefit, and then, it could take, in the past, it could take several months to get that eligibility form from the VA. So, do everything now. It's not going to hurt anything. Get that eligibility set up for you before you even start using it.
So on that eligibility, I know there's a time limit for your use of the GI Bill from date of discharge. If they apply right away, does that give them any extension? Because that's one thing that we're one.
No. Again, your time limit, your clock doesn't start until actually you separate from active duty military. I'll tell the vets, actually active duty soldiers at an Officer Air Force Base, that even though you're not separated, go out and apply and get that certificate of eligibility, because that clock does not start until you actually separate. But once you do separate and decide to go to school right away, you have that eligibility certificate in hand that you can present for that school and start using your benefits right away. So there is a 10-year requirement, time frame for the Montgomery GI Bill and 15 years from the new post 9/11 GI Bill to use your entitlement.
Okay. I have a couple of questions on that. Now I know there's the 10-year period, but is there any way of extending that?
No. Unfortunately, the VA puts, laws and requirements out there that you have 10 years to use your GI Bill for the Montgomery GI Bill and 15 years to use your post 9/11 GI Bill.
So there's no waivers for that?
No.
So if you're a spouse of a veteran, how do you go about applying for the veteran?
Well, there's a couple of different programs for spouses for the GI Bill. If there is the transfer of entitlement for the post 9/11 GI Bill, where the veteran or the service member can transfer some of his entitlement to his spouse or children before he leaves military service.
But that's
once
only
he leaves military service, he cannot change it. And then there's also the DEA benefit for disabled or deceased veterans, or the spouse or children can use it if they're either deceased or 100% disabled. And that is a Chapter 35 benefit.
Another question. How long does a certificate of eligibility take? Because I know a lot of veterans wait to the very last minute to apply for it, and then it ends up taking too long.
Recently, with the new website, they say they can have one done in 30 days. Previously, it could take several months to get your eligibility in the mail before you can start school.
Ken, a lot of the National Guard have the Montgomery.
No.
No? Okay.
No. Well, they have the Reserve Montgomery GI Bill, which is not the same as the Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill for active duty. Their chapter is 1606, so it pays a smaller stipend every month. And there are some reservists and National Guardmen who can qualify for the post 9/11 GI Bill if they've ever been on a deployment on Title 10 orders in emergency contingency operations.
So it's pretty confusing for a person out there, isn't it?
It is. Not knowing exactly, especially reservists or guardsmen, on which chapter they can actually qualify for.
Is there a place within the VA system that they can call and get some of this straightened out?
They can call the 800 number for the Education Center, or they can call me, and I can talk to them about their benefit, that are available to them.
Some of the veterans that we've encountered in our school have attended other schools and failed out. What happens to a veteran that's under the GI Bill when they fail their program?
Typically, if they went to, a semester of college and ended up failing that semester, they've lost, those months of entitlement, unfortunately. So it's wasted time for them. But there is typically no harm, no foul for them. Some schools could put them on a suspension system to where the vet cannot re-enroll back into the school unless he gets readmitted back into the school to use his benefit. But if he decides to change to another school, he can go in and enroll into another school and use his benefit somewhere else, immediately.
Okay, we have a school that's approved for the GI Bill payment.
Yes.
But we are not a college. So can you explain the difference between those two types of schools?
Typically, an IHL, what we call a university.
IHL is Institute of Higher Learning.
Correct, an Institute of Higher Learning. So for every month that you go to school, you're using a month of entitlement off your GI Bill. Typically, private schools like River, if you attend there, your eligibility is based on essentially the cost of the program. So right now there is a cost of almost $22,000 a year for a private school. So if you basically take that and divide that by 12, that'll give you your monthly breakout per tuition cost every month for the school. So in case of River, it's close to the $22,000 cap, so you're going to be using an entire year of entitlement for that program. If you go to like the taxidermy school or a guide school where tuition may only be $3,000 or $4,000 over, even it's a 30-day period, you may use 2 months of entitlement or more for that course based on the amount of that course.
And a number of people that are getting out, the entitlement doesn't guarantee you 100% of the tuition or the housing allowance. Is that correct?
Correct. It all comes again down to how many years of active duty did you serve. Typically, most reserve and guardsmen, if they've been on deployment, it's typically only been a one-year deployment. Most of them are going to be eligible for 50 or 60% of the post 9/11 GI Bill. You have to serve at least 24 months of active duty qualifying service in order to qualify for the 100% rate.
Even at 24 months, if I get out with a general discharge, how does that affect it?
Typically with a general discharge right now, you're not qualified for the GI Bill. But again, I'm not the person that qualifies you or not. It's best for you to apply, go to vets.gov, apply for your benefit, and let the VA tell you what you need to do to qualify if you're not automatically qualified. Like I said, most times with a general discharge, you are not qualified for the GI Bill unless you can get that discharge changed.
But we've had situations where we've had vets that have come in that had a general discharge, but they had a prior honorable discharge.
Correct. If you served on a period of active duty honorably, when you come to re-enlist, you're going to be given an honorable discharge for your first period of service, and you re-enlist for a second term. And if during that term you're given a general discharge, yes, you're not qualified for the GI Bill on that enlistment, but you would be able to qualify for the GI Bill on your previous period of service, which was an honorable.
So it really gets down to trying to sort through all of the issues that are...
Yes. So that's why, it's important to, go into, the vets.gov website, fill out your eligibility form to find out what you're actually entitled to. Because typically most vets coming off active duty today are entitled to the Montgomery GI Bill, Chapter 30, and the Post 9/11 Chapter 33 GI Bill. So they're going to have to choose which one they want to use.
Could you explain the difference between those two? Because a lot of vets out there come to us and they won't know the difference between a Montgomery and a Post 9/11. They'll think the benefits are the same, and they're really not. Could you explain the difference?
Right. The Montgomery GI Bill has been the one that's been around the longest, where the Montgomery GI Bill, you go to school, you're going to have to pay for the tuition fee and cost up front out of your pocket, and then you receive a monthly stipend while you're going to school.
That allows a veteran that is doing on-the-job training or an apprenticeship a higher rate of pay. Is that correct?
Again, that comes down to zip code. Traditionally, what we found out here in Montana, it is usually more advantageous for a veteran, if you're going to use an OJT or an apprenticeship program, to use the Chapter 30 entitlement because it has a higher monthly payout, as compared to the 33 is based on the zip code of where you're either going to school or where you're working. So the Chapter 33 Chapter 33 Post 9/11 GI Bill, if you elect to go to school, that chapter there is going to pay 100%, if you're entitled to 100% of your tuition and fee cost to the school, plus give you a housing stipend on top of it for an E5 rate with dependents based on the zip code of the school that you're going to.
So even if you live in, for example, in Missoula, even if you live in Mineral County and you're coming into Missoula County, you're going to get the Missoula County rate of pay.
Correct, based on the zip code of the school's location.
It's sometimes advantageous to use the Montgomery, and sometimes it's advantageous to use the Post 9/11. The Montgomery Bill, did they have to pay in for that?
Yes. Once you come on to active duty, you're paying $100 a month for the first 12 months of your enlistment. So yeah, you're paying $1,200 from the Montgomery GI Bill. Where the Post 9/11 is essentially a free program. So if you end up using all 36 months of your Post 9/11, you're supposed to get your $1,200 refunded back to you for the Montgomery GI Bill. Oh. And then here's another, kind of kick to this too. If you elect to use the Montgomery GI Bill first and use all 36 months of it, then you can also go back and qualify for an additional 12 months of the Post 9/11 Chapter 33 entitlement as well. But it doesn't work the other way around.
So you can use all your entitlement for the Montgomery Bill and then apply for the entitlement under the Post 9/11.
Yes, but only for an additional 12 months.
But not the other way around.
But not the other way around, correct.
Very, very confusing for the poor veteran out there that's never been exposed to all of this.
It is. It is.
One of your job responsibilities is to approve schools. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So tell me what a school needs to do to become approved to be able to teach veterans.
As in case, let's say I'll use River as an example. The school would have to be in operation for at least 2 years for me to even begin the approval process. Because the VA wants to make sure, and the state approving agency wants to make sure that the school itself is a viable school. Because we're protecting the veterans' GI Bill rights. Because we don't want to see the veteran waste and squander his GI Bill in the facility that is only there to get the veterans' money, essentially. So we want to make sure it is a viable school, it's an operational school, and they provide, instruction that a veteran can use once he graduates to become employable with.
The key there is employability.
Yes.
So once the school applies after the 2 years of being in business, how tough is it for you to go through and make sure that they are approved or non-approved?
I mean, as far as the veterans?
As far as you and your job for approval for the veterans.
Once they meet the 2-year requirement, I send them the application, they fill out the application, I review the application, I come out and do a site visit to make sure they are a legitimate school, not operating out of the trunk of their car. Explain the process of the GI Bill to them, and if they meet all the statutory requirements, I will do an approval, approving them to use for vets to use their GI Bill through their programs.
With the economy going the way that it is, what happens to the veteran if a school does close down?
There have been a few, schools, big-name schools recently that have shut down and were been forced to shut down. And the VA and Department of Education are starting to review some of those cases to see if, and this is going to have to actually go to legislation, of granting some of these veterans their entitlements, because it wasn't their fault that the school closed down. So we shouldn't penalize the veteran for something that wasn't their fault. So they're looking at legislation to get a change, to grant some of this time back to the veteran that he lost while going to some of these, what we call bogus schools, essentially.
You're talking about ITT Tech?
Yes.
So that turned into a big mess for the VA, am I correct?
It did, yes.
So one of the issues that we've got right now is in Montana, we don't have a congressman. So if a veteran got caught up in that scandal, what can they do to help themselves until we get a congressman?
That's an interesting question. First thing he needs to do is, make sure that, he notifies the VA that he was a part of, one of these schools that failed, and to see what kind of restitution he can get from either the school or the VA of getting his benefits back. So, I mean, it's important for the veteran to stay in contact with the VA. That's the biggest thing, and this state approving agency. So they can work together with the vet on trying to get his benefits back to him.
The veteran can file a complaint against the
Yes.
school.
I mean, there is a process on the GI Bill website where they could, if they're having problems with a school, where they can file a complaint against the school, and it can be investigated from the VA or even the state approving agency office against the school. And that's what some of the things that led to the ITT situation.
Well, the veterans need their protection because they shouldn't fall prey to these schools.
Yes, exactly.
So right now, it would take an act of Congress before they would get their veterans' benefits back.
Correct.
It's time to really research the school, is what you're saying.
Right, and the GI Bill actually website has a comparison tool where you can compare different school programs, the cost. You can actually compare costs with different schools, different programs between different schools, and you can also look at the Principal Excellence program that the VA offers. If a school is part of the Principles of Excellence, then it is a qualified school for VA purposes. So, that's almost a guarantee for the veteran that he knows that it's a Principles of Excellence program, that he can go there and it's going to be a vet-friendly school.
That gets into another area that's kind of interesting. Some of these schools, even the local colleges, they don't know how to handle the veterans.
Right.
So what happens, I've got one guy that I'm working with that went to one of the universities here in Montana when he first got out, and now he's got bad grades, and he's trying to get into another college before his benefits run out. And so is there anything the VA can do?
I mean, there are some programs actually out there. The Veterans Upward Bound program, which is almost available at every public Montana university, where they can go into. It's a free program. You can actually use your GI Bill through it if you want, and it helps the veterans kind of get back in the track of going to school. So if they're have problems in math or problems in English or sciences, they can go through the Veterans Upward Bound program and receive additional training into these subjects that they're weak in before they go back into school.
So even with the weak programs that you're talking about, if I'm weak in math or whatever.
Actually, they're almost 30-day programs.
Okay, but there is also something called a tutor program, is there not?
Yes. So, if the vet is struggling, through a semester, you can actually go to the VA and request tutoring assistance, and the VA will pay for tutoring.
So that's available to the vets, and they need to know about that.
Yes.
So you go to your school certifying official, and they will help you get that program.
Correct, yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Ken. Before we let you go, do you have any more advice to any veterans out there looking to use their educational benefits?
I do. Like I said, ask around, ask questions. The new GI Bill website is an excellent source of information for you they can go in there and utilize. With that cost comparison tool, they can compare different college programs, different costs, so they can be educated before they even start school. So, a lot of these vets really don't get the briefings, they need when they come off of active duty about the GI Bill. So it's important for them to try to get the knowledge themselves. So go to the GI Bill website or even talk to their state approving agency or the school certifying official at whatever school they want to go to find out what programs are available to them and what GI Bill information that they can get from them that they're entitled to.
Excellent.
So a lot of times it's important for these veterans to go out and get the information themselves, and there's a lot of resources out there for them to get the information that they need.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ken. We really appreciate your time coming on the show. All right. Well, you have a good day, Ken.
All right. You too.
Ken was actually our certifying official. He came out to our office a couple of times to do compliance surveys, essentially audits. And last time he came out, he found out that River had no errors, that we were completely tight in every area. So that was good to know. And any veterans in our program, gave them a boost of confidence that, hey, this is a legitimate program and, they're not here to jerk us around.
The other thing that I want to remind everybody of is give us a call. We are doing this vestibular testing for veterans with post-traumatic stress, and we've been getting calls. It is really interesting to see the results. It might not be that you're having mental issues. You could be having physical issues that are fixable.
Yeah, absolutely. The testing is very exciting. Kind of rolls in with the education as well. We train our students how to do intakes and vitals, blood pressures, things like that as well. And that's part of the education. So it kind of all rolls into one, the whole idea of veterans helping veterans. So if you have any questions, find us on the web at riverofchange.org. Shoot us a call at 406-540-2302 or 406-273-8426. All right, so far we've talked about the GI Bill, durations of different GI Bills, applications, how to get them, who qualifies, to what extent, what percentage, and then a comparison tool so you can find what school is best for you. It doesn't always need to be a school. It can be an apprenticeship. It can be a lot of different things. So make sure you take your time and energy and look into using your GI Bill because you earned it and it's well worth looking into. Well, thank you very much for listening to Veterans Heartbeat. We would not be able to bring this to you without all the support of the listeners. Thanks again to the Man Shop for sponsoring the show. If you're in need of a great haircut, swing on by and get a snip. Seriously, gals there do a fantastic job. Also, thank you to our main sponsor, River, the Royal Institute for Veterans Education and Research. They have an array of services such as veterans-focused education and a free TBI and vestibular disorder clinic once a week. Check them out on Facebook or on the web at riverofchange.org. I also like to give you a heads up. Next week, we are going to have Governor Steve Bullock on, so don't miss that one. That'll be a fantastic show. He'll be on to talk about different veterans issues and what he sees coming up in the legislature and also just in his personal experience. Lastly, we'd like to show our appreciation to all of our veterans. Thank you for serving our country and keeping us safe.